Eastern Woodlands. There were many tribes within the northeastern region. The tribes were grouped according to their language: Iroquoian, Algonquin, and Siouan. The most powerful group of Indians was the Iroquois League of Nations. The League of Nations was formed when 5 nations, Cayuga, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, and Seneca, came together to form an alliance of Native Americans who spoke the same language, believed in the same gods, and had similar customs, and considered cooperation to be an important quality of everyday life. Within this league there was a great council, a central government formed to represent each nation. Their primary purpose was to keep the great law of peace, which said that Iroquois should not kill each other. They also made important decisions and laws for each tribe and village. The Native Americans in the eastern woodlands had many resources for survival. The soil of the region was fertile and able to support crops. They had rivers, lakes, and coastal waters to use for drinking water and fish for food. There were large forests which were home to the animals they hunted. Rainfall was moderate, which helped the crops flourish. Since this area was rich in natural resources, the Native Americans were able to be hunters, gatherers, fishermen, and farmers. In the eastern woodlands, there were a wide variety of animals to hunt. Animals roamed through the vast forests and often migrated along the rivers and streams. Some animals commonly hunted in this area were bear, deer, raccoons, rabbit, and elk. Beavers made dams in the rivers and were hunted for their skins. The rivers were also home to many different types of fish. The eastern woodlands people mostly traveled by foot and by canoe when hunting and fishing. Their canoes were made out of birch bark and held together by tree gum. These Native Americans were able to gather foods grown in the wild and also farm their own foods. The bushes of the forest provided an abundance of berries, and rivers and coastal waters provided shellfish. The Native Americans also grew and harvested corn, beans, squash, pumpkins, and melons. Can you infer that food was plentiful in this region? Since people in the eastern woodlands did not have to go far for food, their homes were sturdy and made for permanent residence. Most of them lived in long rectangular buildings called longhouses. The frames of a longhouse were made of wooden poles and young trees, which were then covered over with bark. Several families lived in one longhouse. Longhouses were owned by the tribe's women. Other natives lived in smaller homes called wigwams. They had wooden frames and were covered by woven mats and sheets of birch bark to form a dome shape. Like all native tribes, the eastern woodlands people had many unique beliefs and customs. They were known to pray for the animals they killed to honor their sacrifice. If someone was sick, they would wear masks to try to scare away the evil spirit causing the sickness. If someone in the tribe died, they would hold a cry ceremony that lasted 5 days to express their sadness. Face paint was worn for special occasions, war, and as an expression of feelings. Red represented life, black represented death or grief, and purple represented royalty or was a sign of a special event. The natives also wore wampum belts, which were made from stringing shells together and were used during tribal ceremonies. Even though the eastern woodlands people practiced their peace law within their nation, they were skilled at war with other tribes and Europeans. They used the tomahawk, a small axe that could be thrown, and the bow and arrow. They were known for performing scalp dances to celebrate victories. The Mohawk Nation was where the Mohawk hairstyle originated. It was originally a way to intimidate enemies during war. The Mohawks would pull or pluck their hair out, not shave like we do today, to look fierce and frightening. There is so much more to learn about the eastern woodlands people. Conduct your own research to discover more interesting facts.